Using Le Chatelier's principle to predict the result of changing concentration. Okay, so Le Chatelier's principle is all about predicting if a system has been disturbed, what it will need to do to get back to a state of equilibrium. So that's going to mean temporarily that the equilibrium will shift to either favor reactants or products until it gets back to equilibrium. So in terms of changing concentration, if the concentration of one of the reactants or products has changed, then you're going to have an imbalance. So you've either got too much or too little of a reactant or product. So thinking about what that would mean in terms of reaction quotient, right, is going to push that number so it's not K anymore. And then we're going to be able to predict how the system is going to restore that balance. And in fact, we don't even have to go ahead and calculate reaction quotient, because we should be able to kind of logic it out without actually doing any calculations. Okay, so we have equilibrium between ammonia, oxygen, nitrogen, and water. Okay, so what's the perturbation? Some oxygen is added. So the first thing to do is find which reactant or product is being discussed. So this time we're talking about the concentration of a reactant. Is the concentration of the reactant increasing or decreasing? So if oxygen is added, that means that the concentration of oxygen is going to go up. So we've got an excess of reactants, essentially. So in terms of reaction quotient, remember it's concentration of products over concentration of reactants. So our number on the bottom's too big, we're going to have a small cube, right? So what's going to have to happen is we're going to have to increase the rate at which reactants are converted into products, so the equilibrium will shift to the right until we redress the balance of having excess reactant. Okay, so our equilibrium shift is going to go to the right. We need to convert reactants into products until this excess oxygen is dealt with. So the pressure of ammonia will what? And I think it's increase, decrease, stay the same. So is ammonia or a reactant or a product? Ammonia is a reactant. Okay, so we've already decided the equilibrium has to shift to the right to redress that balance. So ammonia and oxygen are going to be reacting to form nitrogen and water. So the pressure of ammonia should decrease because it's going to be getting used up at a faster rate until equilibrium gets re-established. The pressure of nitrogen, well, the nitrogen is on the product side. So nitrogen is going to be formed from the ammonia and excess oxygen being used up. So we're going to see an increase in pressure of that product, increase in pressure of nitrogen. So check what you've done and make sure it makes sense with the direction that the reaction is shifting. Okay, we've got too much of a reactant, so we must shift the equilibrium to be going to the right at a faster rate in order to use up that excess reactant, which means the concentration of both reactants is going to decrease and the concentration of both products is going to increase. So that's consistent with what we said. Okay, so the second part then is saying some water is removed. So let's find water wherever it may be. So water is a product and some water is being removed. So removed means it's being taken away from our reaction vessel. Okay, so taking something away from the reaction vessel will mean decreasing the amount of it that's there. So what we've got is we've got less products than we would have at equilibrium. So in terms of my equilibrium constant expression, right, products are on the top, reactants are on the bottom. So my number for my products is too small and we've got to redress that balance. How are we going to do that? Well, the equilibrium again is going to shift to the right, same direction it did for increasing the concentration of one of our reactants. So we're going to shift to the right because what we need to do is replace that lost product. Okay, we've got to make more product. So more of our ammonia and oxygen are going to combine to make nitrogen and water to redress the balance of the water having been removed. So again, we're going to see the same trend, that the pressure in ammonia will decrease and the pressure of oxygen will increase. Okay,